Okay.
Yeah, so.
I try. I know most things about me.
So today in the seat we have Ronnie Mulaudzi, who is a powerhouse in both business and the arts. He's the Chief Operations at Sakhumnotho Group Holdings. He is also an award-winning gospel artist, singer, songwriter, and radio presenter with accolades like the Standard Bank Rising Stars and a big commitment to CSI. This truly makes him an inspiring and influential figure. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So we're gonna hop straight into it. You are such an inspirational figure in the public space, and I know when we had a conversation previously, I said I love how humble you are, because people who are the most successful tend to be the most humble.
Yeah.
So, what inspired you to choose your career path?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, by the way. It's a great honor. My career, it's a very interesting story. So when I finished matric, I wanted to become a doctor, like most kids.
Yeah.
And I applied to, Wits, UCT. Both accepted me for the medical program. Wits, at that time, had a graduate, they call it the graduate entry program for medicine, because the mainstream was full. And UCT had accepted me for the full medical program. But I wasn't keen on going to Cape Town. It was too far from home. I'm from Limpopo, so I thought, let me stay closer to where I'm from. And I've got family in Joburg, so I would have support at least to do, varsity and post-matric.
Yeah.
So I took the Wits, GEP program, and first year was very tough. I was always a bright student in high school, right? And math, science, biology were my strongest subjects. And I thought it's a natural fit.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, varsity was very different. Physics, first year, totally showed me flames. Chemistry also. And so at some point, I think in the second semester, I thought, maybe, why do I want to become a doctor in the first place? And I realized that I wanted to help people in general. And so I went to the careers unit, did a psychometric test to see what my personality would match, what field of career field. And psychology came up very high, on that spectrum. And I remember the counselor said to me, look, your idea about, a career is about helping people. You could have done it as a doctor, but you can also do it as a psychologist. I'd never really thought, being a psychologist would be something I do. Although in high school, in matric, most of my classmates, used to call me the class shrink, because I was so quiet. Very good listener, so I was always listening to what he's saying. Okay. And then when they would ask me something, I would then be able to, have the sage, words of wisdom to say. So psychology was, I suppose, a natural fit. And once I got into that space, I realized there's actually quite a broad, spectrum of things you can do in psychology, including industrial psychology, organizational psychology, educational psychology. And so I thought, my goodness, I never thought that there is so much, in that space. The only psychologist I knew was a shrink, so that's how I got into industrial organizational psychology. Did that at Wits for undergrad, and then did my honors, did psychometrics as well for that, and then did my master's degree at UNISA postgrad. And that's how I ended up in my career in human resources,
wow.
Which I did for 10 years before I branched off into operations.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. I think even if you were a doctor, it probably would have worked out, because you'd still be serving people.
Indeed.
But you are pursuing your passion right now. And I think the day and age that we live in today, so many people want to do that. So how would you motivate someone to pursue their passion?
Yeah.
Beyond, let's say they're in a 9-to-5, or they're not necessarily doing what they love.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
Yeah, it's often very difficult for people to find their purpose in life. Even for me, I had to navigate the space and, trial and error, before I got to where I am. Sometimes I just think I was very fortunate or very lucky. But I also am a firm believer in my own faith. I'm a Christian, I'm a child of God. And so I think, God guided me really quite well into my purpose. And so I think all of us, we have that fundamental, burning in our hearts, in our souls, that keeps us drawing us, to our purpose. And I think we should listen to it and follow it. And so the way that I can maybe motivate someone to follow their passion is, listen to the voice inside of you. I know it sounds a bit cliched, but, that voice inside of us keeps us focused. It keeps us directing us to where our purpose is, our calling is, our passion, our skills. Some people, know their purpose very early in life because the talent is so clear and so obvious, But some of us need to navigate, do something that is outside of that first, go do a 9-to-5 job, be an administrator, be a receptionist. But you know yourself, that even if I am, in a job to make money and to earn a living to sustain myself, there is something deeper, there is something higher that I need to be pursuing. And so never stop pursuing that something that is higher.
Oh, very true and very well said. Now, as Chief Operations and People's Officer, what knowledge can you provide to empower someone aspiring to achieve the same level of professional growth that you have achieved?
Sure, it's a tough one, eh? So I think when I started my career at PricewaterhouseCoopers as a consultant, I was a graduate trainee actually. I was very, very, ambitious, very, very highly motivated. I had energy for days. I remember, one of the associate directors wanted me to lead a project in Lesotho. I designed the methodology for that, and everything. Did the project. It was my first R1 million project, actually. We did that project. It was a skills audit for the whole public service in Lesotho. And you can imagine having spoken to managers in about 23 entities of the government. So there was data galore. So it was incredible, the amount of data we had to analyze and report on. And I remember at that time, I literally had to, in finalizing that report, had to spend the whole night at the office, literally the whole night at the office, finish the report, submit to the director, go home, take a shower, and come back to the office. But that was the kind of passion that I had, for my work that I still have even now, which has really spurred me on and inspired me to achieve more. And so I think for me, being a chief operations officer now and people officer, it comes naturally. It's quite a lot of work to do. It's quite intense. It's quite stressful. I think for my first job, in 2007, my first project, that same level of consistency I've kept. And I think that's very important, consistency in building a career and making sure that you achieve, all that you really, feel passionate about. And so, for me, the people side came first. I started, in HR, did that for 10 years, and the operations came later. And it was a really scary career transition that I had to actually take, and be conscious that I'm leaving my comfort zone, something I've studied to do, something I'm very, well conversant in, and now switched over to operations in an investment environment.
Sure.
Very, very scary.
Wow.
Transition.
I think also that consistency is so important when it comes to being in a space where you want to lead or you want to be good.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
But they say there's this, I don't know who it's quoted by, but once you get stretched and you stretch yourself, you can't necessarily go back to the whole you. So you always have room for more.
Yes.
Which is always good.
Absolutely. And I think it's that stretching that I think, creates for us, extraordinary opportunities, because every time someone says, we've got a project, is anyone, can anyone help, if you're not the first one to raise your hand, you miss that opportunity for that stretch. So I think for me, early on in my career, I learned that, even if you don't know something, raise your hand and say, I am willing. I will learn, on the job, and I'll do it.
Great. That's beautiful. So you've spoken briefly about transitioning into something, greater than yourself, and also transitioning into something that you're not necessarily comfortable with.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the boldest decision that you've ever made to date? And, how did that impact your life going forward?
Yeah, career-wise, I think transitioning from human resources into operations was probably the biggest and the boldest decision that I had to take. But it was a growth opportunity that I saw. And I'm glad that, my mentor also saw that, in me and gave me that opportunity to make the transition. So, and I think most of the time, and especially as Black, professionals, it is true that even today in 2024, we still have to do more than other people to prove ourselves in the work environment. And so for me, when my mentor, noticed that I've got this potential to do the switch over, from what I studied, what I know, what I've got 10 years of experience in doing, and switching over into executive management in an investment environment, that was really quite. It gave me a lot of confidence, to try something new, and so I moved from my role at Massmart as Group HR Manager, and moved into becoming Executive Director for Operations in investments. I knew nothing about investments. Had no idea about the jargon, what a valuation is, what a due diligence is, what a financial model was. Absolutely no clue. When I got to that job, the first deal that was on the pipeline was the Total South Africa transaction, which was a big deal at that time in 2017, 2018. And so I'm in this meeting, they are reviewing legal agreements, and I'm just thinking, what are these people going on about, I think I probably learned how to Google very quickly in that meeting, just so that I've got context to the meeting. Yeah. And so my learning curve was very, 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 very steep. And I remember, one of the executive at Massmart, saying, are you sure you want to leave Massmart? It's a great place. Are you sure you want to do a career change, And, he threw all of those, he's an accountant, he threw all those words, due diligence, valuation. I thought, I have no idea what he's saying, but look, I will learn. Yeah. I will learn and I'll get it right. And so I think most of us, if we're given the opportunity and people trust us, I think just a bit of trust, and our ability to learn, we can definitely do anything and learn anything. So true. So the bold decision that you made was because you saw room for growth. Absolutely. And you went for it. Absolutely. And I think also people, we tend to want to always be in the safe zone. Yeah. So, well done for being bold in that decision. No, thank you. Sure. Yeah, being safe doesn't create opportunity for you. And if you think about it, entrepreneurs have to take risk all the time. True. If they don't take risks, we won't have the great products we have. And so I think even ourselves, we need to look at our own individual journeys, whether it's career-wise, whether it's in business, as a portfolio, and you have to take a fair amount of risk to grow. You briefly touched on having a mentor, and I think having a mentor is so important, and not everyone has an opportunity to have a mentor. Yeah. But how did having a mentor, guide you into your career path, and how did it help you in terms of, the advancements, and even possibly preventing you from making possible mistakes? So chat to us about that. Yeah, so I think mentorship is very, very important, because I think what mentors do is that they usually a mentor would have gone the road, the long road ahead of you, and so they would have learned many things ahead of you, experienced many things, made a lot of mistakes in business or in their career, and so they're able to help you navigate your career journey a lot better, and to watch out for potholes and possible things that could go wrong. And so I think for me, what mentors do, they help you, avoid delaying your progress, but they also help you facilitate conversation, and they help you get to places where you wouldn't be able to get to yourself, Usually they would have, networks that are better than yours. Yeah. They know bigger people than what you know. So they're able to bring you into their space, onto their platforms, bring you into conversations, onto the tables that you ordinarily wouldn't have access to. And so I think that's the importance of mentorship. Because all of us, we need that little step ladder, to get us to the next level. Yeah, and that's what a mentor does. They're a step ladder for you to get where you want to go. They won't get there for you, but they help you, probably cut out a lot of the red tape and gatekeepers and all of that, to get there. So for me, I think that's what really mentorship did for me. And my mentor is Professor Sakhumnotho Group, the founder of Sakhumnotho Group, and I think that mentorship really brought me to where I am now. But I've also had other mentors. All my previous bosses have been my mentors, Nice. So, and I keep in touch with all of them. Yeah, actually all of them. Wow. From my first job at PwC.
Nice. Now, when someone is looking for a mentor, yeah. What qualities would you say they need to look out for? Because a lot of people would see someone and think that they have everything under control, but that's the perception that they give.
Yeah.
So when you chose your mentor, what were the key qualities that you looked for, and how did you decide that in that season that you were in, this is the mentor that I'm going to go for because of where I want to be?
Yeah. It's an interesting question because I think the way that you pick a mentor, it differs, I think, from scenario to scenario. In my HR journey, all my bosses were automatically my mentors because they were senior than I was, and they had knowledge and skill that I was still acquiring, and so it was easy. It was a natural, it was almost like a default, mentorship process. So I didn't go out of my way, to find someone outside of the organization where I was working to get a mentor. So that's one way to find a mentor. So it's someone that you admire, that could be in the same field that you're in, that could be your direct manager. Yeah. Or you can find someone that's outside of, your own company that you believe you can learn from. But there are instances where you want to access a different, side of the industry, or branch out into a different career. And I think that's how I got, into being a chief operations officer. Because my mentor, was in the investment space, and I wanted to learn about investments and operations. And so it was a natural fit for me to, be mentored by him in order for me to get into this role. And so I think when you choose a mentor, I think choose someone that is ahead of you, that you believe can create opportunities for you to grow. And fast track you sometimes into, opportunities that ordinarily you wouldn't have access to. It's not so much about this being in the same sector or the same career field. It just depends what your career objective is. So I always say to people that, if you don't have a career plan or an objective, you won't know what kind of mentor you need. And so you're going to create a burden for your mentor to show up for you, because, as a mentee, you must show up. So every time you set up an appointment with your mentor, you must be clear about, okay, for this session, I would like to discuss, A, B, and C. And this is the kind of knowledge I want to draw from my mentor. And this is why I need this knowledge, because, tomorrow I've got an interview, or I've got a paper that I need to write, or, whatever that looks like for you. And so sometimes I think people misconstrue the concept of a mentor for someone that is going to spoon feed you. Yeah. Mentors don't do that because they're busy people also, Yeah. So they've got a lot that they are working on. And so for an effective mentorship relationship, you yourself as a mentee must have an objective in mind, and you must know what you're looking for in this particular mentor.
True, very true. Now, you are a leader yourself.
Yeah.
And it must be very difficult to stay motivated at times. How do you stay motivated as a leader?
Yeah.
Leading a team, leading people in your life, And how would you motivate people to also stay motivated in the fields that they are in, whether it be entrepreneurship, in the office space, in any industry that they are in?
Yeah, so important, hey? So, leadership can be a very lonely place. And so I think it's important for leaders also to have, places where they can debrief, especially when things get very hard. And I'll give an example. In our organization, we had to go through a retrenchment process, and I was leading that.
Oh, wow.
So we had to retrench about probably 60% of our staff.
Sure.
A very, very difficult thing to do, but a requirement because, the business had changed and we needed to, get a handle on our costs and all of those things. And so that was a very, very strenuous, thing to do. And so being motivated in that scenario was very difficult because you understand the impact of the decision that you are executing on behalf of the business, on these people that have to now be let go. And you appreciate the hardship that it presents for them. And so, you can internalize a lot of that, stuff and compromise your mental health and all of those things. And so I think it's important as leaders to have places where we debrief, So I have an executive coach who I can call, if something is not making sense to me at that time. So outside of a mentor, I think also an executive coach is a good thing to have because they help you have perspective. And you can also have a program there that is tailored to your environment, as a person, as a leader, and, that understands, what are your pressure points, what are the things that are stress points for you, so that that program can also unleash a good outlook for you. So because as leaders we take on a lot of stuff on behalf of the company and the people that report and the team that report to us. And so I think that for me was important. But also my kids, I've got 2 kids, 2 boys, 11 and 9. They also keep me very, very focused and very motivated. So nice. I think anytime I am feeling a bit down or demotivated, I think about those 2 and I think, okay, that's good enough reason for me to get up from the bed and go.
Yeah. So they are part of your why. Why you
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
Amazing.
Absolutely. We all need that thing.
Very true. So you are in various spaces.
Yeah.
What do you see as a trend shaping the future of operations, specifically the industry that you are in?
Yeah.
And it's you managing people. You're a gospel singer. You have in the entertainment industry. You're a radio host. But you can choose one, either or.
Yeah.
So what trend do you see? And I think let's maybe rather focus on the people operations part. You can choose.
Yeah.
What trend do you see shaping the future of the industry?
Yeah, so that's very interesting. I think COVID was a very, very big factor. I think for all of us globally, in all sectors, in all walks of life. And to some extent, I think we might downplay or underestimate the impact that it's had. I think the way that we manage people and business post-COVID is very different. Some of the things that, some of the efficiencies that we actually see now are as a result of COVID. People are working, hybrid, at home and also, at the office. We ourselves, we do 3 days in and 2 days, out. And so it's quite interesting to see how that's got impact on how we manage performance of people, because you can't now assume that, because someone is coming to the office, every day 8 to 5, that they're being productive, So the way we look at productivity and managing performance in organizations has changed quite a lot. How we achieve efficiencies in operations has changed. AI is no longer a theory now. It's actually real.
Very true.
And the way that we approach work, in an AI environment, so true. Robotics. The way that companies are trying to save money, be efficient, meet the customer demands, has changed quite a lot. And so, And so we have to, consider all of those things. But I think AI is probably one of the things that is a big, mega trend for all of us economically at the moment. But COVID was a big mega trend in 2019, 2020. I think AI now is one of those big things that are trending quite a lot. And I think if you think about it, and there's always a question whether AI is going to have a negative impact on jobs and whether people are going to lose jobs to robots and all of those things. I don't think so. I think there's going to be an integration at some point. Yes, all of us have to evolve. Our skill sets have to evolve with the times. Some of the skills that we used to need in business before COVID are no longer relevant. And so, I think as individuals, we have to continuously think about if I'm in this job or in this career field, what are the changes that are happening around me? What do I need to do to remain relevant? Sure. If this company decides to close down my department, am I going or am I staying? So I think all those are real questions that we all need to continuously ask ourselves. And so the question then becomes, what is that gap then, and how do I close that gap?
Yes.
If my job is, I'm a sales call center agent, and we know that now that robots do call centers. It's so scary, but call centers were big employers, but right now companies can achieve a lot of efficiency operationally because they can automate a lot of the stuff that because usually it's a standard thing that you want the call center agent to go through when they call a client, isn't it? So there's not a question. If you're selling insurance, this is what you do. So there's a lot of that's happening. So I think that in order for us to remain employable, we have to continuously do that self-assessment. Am I still relevant? Is my skill set still relevant? How can I diversify my skill set so that I can really plug into business wherever I'm needed? Because I think that's what really is. I think we have a skills on demand kind of environment at the moment. So it's not, you're a specialist in marketing and so come and do marketing here.
Yeah.
No,
you do everything.
You need to be. Yeah, exactly. So you need to have a broad, generic skill set that can be plugged into where the business needs it the most at that time.
That's such a key, important role, especially in the working environment.
Yeah.
Now, we've spoken about AI and the advancements of AI that's here to stay, inevitably so.
Yes.
And what would you say is your personal skill set that you bring to the table that AI cannot replace? That's a tough question.
It is. It's a very tough one. No, but I think in my career, having a combination of operations, which in essence is business, management, and human resources, I think it creates quite a nice combination. Most human resources professionals or people that are in the human capital space struggle to understand business or to align with business. And if you think about it, HR is meant to be a partner to the business to help the business achieve its objective. And so I think my understanding, of key functional areas in business, because I've headed up marketing and communications, governance and compliance, human resources. And so, understanding all of those, you are a lot more broader in your skill set, and you're able to, to adapt to a lot of environments. And myself being in an investment environment, we have about 7 sectors that we invest in, and so understanding all of those sectors also broadens my knowledge base. And so we're in agriculture, we are in electric vehicle manufacturing, we are in industrial pumping, manufacturing. The next company, we are in food manufacturing. We are in oil and gas, at Total. So it's quite a broad spectrum of things that you are learning about on the daily. And so I think that broad, industry knowledge also gives me some kind of advantage, I'd like to think.
I'm sure it does. And lastly, what would you say is your favorite day-to-day quote that represents you and who you are as a person?
Sure, I actually haven't thought about that. Hey, I don't really have one. But I think every day I wake up to go and do my best work.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what I do every day.
Show up. So basically, show up as your best self.
Show up as my best self.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And sharing your knowledge and your insights, and continue to be an inspiration and a light in the industry that you're in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was a great pleasure.
Thank you.
All right.